class, just the usual equipment, nice clear area, open mind, sense of humor. And if we've not met before, my name is Brandy. Welcome to Sunday morning yoga. So we're going to start with a couple of blocks, belt, and some sort of padding for your knees in what's known as puppy pose. It's kind of like a down dog. So big toes together, knees apart, hips go back over your heels. Keep all your toys nearby and stretch your arms out in front, crawling your fingers away from your hips, arcing your hips back over your heels. And breathe. So you're up on your fingertips, crawling your fingertips forward and backing your hips up towards your heels, feeling the sides of your body get long. So your challenge, if you choose to accept it, is to keep this feeling of length in your spine, length in your torso. As you turn your palms up, thumbs out to the sides, palms up, and swing your elbows in narrow. So tuck the thumb sides of your elbows in as narrow as they can go. Palms are up. And continue to back your hips towards your heels. And you may feel the sides of your body round towards down the ground, round down towards the ground. So if you were a ticklish type, or if you were wearing a cat suit with side seams, think about that whole side seam on the sideline of your body, down towards the ground. Palms up, thumbs out to the sides. More narrow. Now, elbows stay on the floor as you shift forward. Still with your palms up, tuck those elbows in even more narrow. Thumbs out, elbows in. And then clasp your hands together. Toes curl under. You're going to back your hips up. There's really no good place for your head. It's going to end up resting on your forearms. Knees are bent, heels are lifted, and your hips are backing up behind you. Your challenge is to get the sides of your body nice and long, wiggling your hips away from your armpits. And then come on down. Hello, chicken. And hips to your heels, big toes together. Arms crawl out in front of you. Fingertips spread wide. Now, if you do have a yoga mat, this is nice. You do want to have your hips on the yoga mat and reach out, find the edges of your yoga mat. You're going to stretch, push that yoga mat away to back your hips up to your heels. And as you do this, feel your shoulders crawl forward towards your ears. So really stretch that yoga mat, push it away to back your hips up to your heels. And relax that effort. Again, palms are up, thumbs out to the sides, tucking those elbows in narrow, hips to your heels. Clasping your hands together, shifting forward, curling your toes under, and again, lifting your hips up. Again, there's really no good place for your head. It might be resting on your upper arms. Knees are bent, heels are lifted. Stretching your side body long, maybe waggling your hips side to side. You can take your feet as wide apart as your mat. It will make it easier for you to waggle your hips side to side. And come on down. Third time, big toes together, knees apart, hips back on your heels. Once again, reaching out, finding the yoga mat and stretch. Side bodies are long. I'm pushing the yoga mat away to help me back my hips up to my heels and finding those side ribs, those armpits, and wrapping them around towards the front body. So that side seam is rolling down towards the ground. One more time. Let's turn this into that puppy pose. It's like a down dog, but you're on your elbows. Or I guess some people call it dolphin pose. Palms up, elbows in narrow, hips back over your heels, clasping your hands together, Coming on up into that dolphin pose. Taking your feet as wide apart as your mat, letting your hips swish and sway side to side, getting long through your side body. And coming on down. Big toes together, knees apart, hips back over your heels. This extended child's pose, backing your hips up to your heels. All of this is preparation for our puppy pose. We've been waiting for it. Here it comes. So your challenge in this puppy pose will be to keep your side body long, your hips backed up towards your heels, and the outer rim of your side body wrapping around towards the ground. So let's put it all together. Palms turn up, elbows tuck in narrow. Exhale, pull your tummy in, round your back like you do for your cat pose. And then crawl your knees backwards, crawl your hips backwards, and melt your chest down towards the ground. Now your palms are going to want to slam together. So your challenge is to keep your thumbs pointing off to the sides. Tuck the thumb sides of your elbows in as narrow as you can and melt your chest down towards the ground. Pulling your hips back away from your shoulders. Now, there's really no good way to grip the mat here with your palms up, but that same idea of like you're trying to push the mat away as you back your hips up. Side body long, side ribs wrapping around towards the ground. And release. For some of you, that's feeling like a lovely stretch. If others need more intensity, this is where the blocks come in handy. So I'm keeping my blocks on the low level. I've got one for each elbow. Same thing, I'm going to be turning those palms up, tucking the thumb sides of the elbows in narrow, but they're going to go on top of the blocks. Try keeping your hands apart, thumbs out to the sides. Crawling your hips back, crawling your knees back, melting your chest down towards the ground. Thumbs pointing to the sides. And breathing. And gather those front ribs, pull your belly into your body as you come forward and come out. We're progressing through some different levels here. One block for each elbow, like level 2, I guess. The next level is take one block for both elbows. Notice I've turned my block wide width. I'm going to turn those palms up, thumbs pointing out to the sides, and then you take that second block. You're going to start on that narrow setting between your hands. So elbows turn, tuck in, both elbows on the block. Pinky fingers on the edge of the brick, fingertips point up, chest melting down towards the ground. Now, if you were a Hindu god or goddess and you had extra hands, imagine an extra set of hands grabbing hold of the edge of the yoga mat, pressing that yoga mat forward so you can pull your hips back, melting that chest. And pull that tummy in, crawl forward, pull, and take a moment. You might want to sit back over your heels, do a couple shoulder shrugs, layer your fingers wide, a couple more shoulder shrugs, couple shoulder rolls as you watch me set up for the next iteration. Again, we're just progressing along here. That would be that 4-inch wide setting between your hands. Same thing, you want the elbows tucked in as narrow as you can get them. Both elbows on the same block. The block is nice and foamy, so it gives you some padding for those bony elbows. Again, no good place for your head on this one. Melting your chest back. Same activation in the body as if you were still gripping the edges of the yoga mat, pushing the yoga mat forward to drag your hips back. And breathing. And crawl forward. And as you can predict, the final version of this one, oh, sit back, give it a couple more shoulder shrugs, is with that brick on its wide width between the shoulders. All right, wide width. Thumb side of the elbows, tuck in nice and narrow. Get them both on the brick if you can. Crawling your chest back. No good place for your head. Breathing. And come on out. All right. Big toes together, knees apart, hips back on your heels. Once again, grab a hold of the edge of that yoga mat, stretch. Pulling in your front ribs, pulling in your belly, wrapping the outer rim of your armpit down towards the ground. Breathing. And palm to hands and knees. So feeling that length in your side body. Want to maintain that length. Come to hands and knees. You might consider putting padding underneath your knees for this one. Inhale, head up, tail up into that sway back cow. Exhale, arch your back for cow. Cat. And inhale for cow. So you're waving back and forth with cat and cow. And the next time you exhale into that cat pose, keep your tummy pulled in. Toes are curled under. Lift your knees to hover 1 inch off the floor. So knees hovering just an inch off the ground. And then knees down. Inhale, head up, tail up into that sway back cow. Exhale, pull your tummy in for cat. Knees hover for bear. Knees down. Inhale for cow. Exhale for cat. Knees up for bear. Knees down. Inhale for cow. Exhale for cat. Knees up for bear. Keep that tummy lifted as you set your knees down. Maintain this bear-like sensation, even though your knees are on the floor, your tummy is lifted into your body as you stretch that right heel straight back, pressing hard through the right heel. Hands are beneath your shoulders, tummy is pulled in. If you wanted to, you could float that left knee off the floor. Your abs are that strong. Pressing hard through that right heel, feeling that calf muscle stretch. If all of that made sense, you can give me a thumbs up with the opposite diagonal left arm. Thumbs up, point the fingers. Tummy is still strong, as if you could lift that left knee off the floor, but lift that right leg up, level with your hips. Now this left toe can be curled under or pointed, whatever you want to do, whatever your knee permits. And breathe. And release. Now, I removed my pillow. If you still have that pillow in there, it's going to be wiggly, and you'll have to reuse your abs a little bit more. But that pillow does give you padding underneath your knee so that you could do this with the toe curled under and that knee wouldn't hurt so bad. But if you don't have padding underneath your knee, you might want to put the foot down flat. Why I'm saying this? Because if the foot's down flat, you're going to push the top of the foot down into the ground. If the toes are curled under, you're going to push back through the heel. So this part of the leg is doing something in the pose. Come to hands and knees, toes are curled under, or tops of the feet flat, whatever works for your knees. Inhale, head up, tail up. And exhale, pull your tummy in, arch your back. So use your feet as you move through your cat and cow a few times here. Notice the difference. Same exact thing we did before, exhaling into that cat pose. Inhaling into the cow. Work your feet. Either you're pushing the tops of your feet down hard into the floor, or you're pushing back through your heels. Moving through your cat and cow. Inhaling for cow. Exhaling for cat. Knees up for bear, just for a split second. Feel those abs working. Keep those abs working as you set your knees down. Keep those abs working as you stretch that left leg back, pressing hard through the heel. Now this right foot can be flat or curled under, whatever your right knee permits you to do. Abs are still strong. Take a moment to make sure they're very strong. Make that right knee lift up for just a split second. Set it back down and work the foot. Whatever action works for your foot. Opposite diagonal arm, that would be your right arm. Thumbs up, point the fingers, and left leg coming into your tiger pose. And work the foot that's on the ground. Pushing the top of the foot down or pushing back through the heel, whichever variation you're doing. And come on down. Hands and knees. Inhale, head up, tail up. And exhale. Work those feet. Inhale, head up, tail up. And exhale. Once again, inhale, head up, tail up into your cow. Exhale for cat. And then knees up for bear. Whichever variation you want with the feet, it doesn't matter. Knees up, that means your abs are up, your abs are strong. And then set it down. Now we're going to do both arms and both legs at the same time. And in order to do that, you get to lie down on your tummy. And again, depending on what surface you're practicing on this morning, you might want some padding underneath those front hip bones because the floor can get hard. Toes curled under. You're going to work your legs narrow, very close together. Imagine you had a really long yoga mat, long enough that you can reach out and stretch that yoga mat. So go ahead, extend your arms, stretch that imaginary yoga mat as you press back through your heels. And breathe. Fingertips come to the ground, but you're still crawling forward, stretching, pushing that yoga mat, even though your fingertips are touching down. Pushing back hard through your heels. And breathe. You're pushing back so hard through your heels that your knees are lifting up. Now let's subtly change the action. Fingertips are down and now claw as if you're pulling back. And feel those shoulders widen across your back. Roll the outer rim of your armpits down towards the ground. And maybe your chest lifts up a little bit more, but you're still driving back through your heels, keeping your knees up off the ground. And you're breathing. And release. Cross one big toe on top of the other. Let your heels go wide and jiggle like jello. All right, come to center. Toes curl under once again. Press back hard through your heels. Get your knees up off the ground. Grab a hold of the edges. Depending on where you are in space, you might actually be able to hold on to the edges of your mat. And stretch that yoga mat as you press back hard through your heels. Abs are nice and strong. Stretch, stretch, stretch. Knees off the floor, pressing hard through your heels. Then subtly change that traction. Fingertips come to the floor and you crawl forward. Like you're dragging your chest forward, dragging your hands back. Feel the outer ends of your armpits wrap around towards your chest. And maybe your chest comes off the floor a little bit more, but you still power through those back feet, through those heels. Power back through your heels. and release. Once again, untuck your toes, cross one big toe on top of the other, jiggle like jello. Elbows come beneath your shoulders, shoulders shrug away from your ears. Do that again, elbows beneath your shoulders, and those shoulders shrug back away from your ears. Give it a couple good shoulder shrugs. Shrug those shoulders onto your back. Take your hands out wide, in line with your shoulders. Let your elbows be bent. Turn and look over one shoulder. The trailing shoulder falls forward. And come to center, and then look over the other shoulder. One shoulder falls forward, one shoulder pulls back. And come to center. Bring your hands a little bit more narrow, closer in, and twist. And twist. And come to center. One more time, bring your hands in a little closer and twist. And twist. Coming to center. Elbows, hands underneath your chest, elbows in narrow, shoulders shrug onto your back. Gather your belly. So look down towards your chest, lift your chest up, lift your belly up, and push up back into that child's pose. Big toes together, knees apart, hips back on your heels. And again, just like we've been doing since the top of the class, you can grab a hold of the edges of your mat and back your hips up all the way onto your feet. So I'm holding onto the mat. I'm pushing the mat forward to back my hips up. Tummy pulls in. Let's turn this into a downward facing dog. So fingers spread wide, toes curl under, hips go high into the sky, down dog. Do make sure both hands, both feet are on the same surface. Fingers spread wide, fingers have been turned out to the sides. So dial your hands in the direction of your pinky fingers. Get to rise up onto your tippy toes, pull your front ribs, pull your belly into your body, ride the wave as you shift forward to the top of a push-up. And then back into downward facing dog. You're trying to keep your spine as close to the ceiling as you possibly can. So you're going to rise up onto tippy toes, pull in your front ribs, pull in your belly, press your stegosaurus spines up towards the ceiling and scrape along the ceiling as you shift forward to the top of a push-up. Keep your front ribs and belly pulled in as you back up into that downward facing dog. Stab the ceiling with your sit bones. Rise to tippy toes, shift your body weight forward, pull in your front ribs, pull in your belly. Scrape your stegosaurus spine against the ceiling as you shift forward to the top of that push-up. So moving back and forth from plank pose to down dog, warming up the shoulders. But as we do this, keep that awareness of the front ribs, of the belly, pulling up into your body. Get as much clearance between you and the floor as you can. How about one more time? Back into downward facing dog. Rise to tippy toes, shift your body weight forward, pull in your front ribs, pull in your belly, shift forward to the top of that push-up. And back into downward facing dog. Walk your feet up towards your hands towards your feet, and along the way, find your blocks. Grab a hold of those yoga blocks. Come into a forward fold with your feet as wide apart as the mat, so 1 foot on either side of the mat, blocks underneath your hands, and you're going to shift and sway your hips side to side. Hands on something to help support your back. If you were doing this without blocks, you could do it with the hands on your lap or even your elbows on your lap. But in order to have a lap, you got to bend your knees. So this can be done without props, elbows or hands on your lap. Shifting and swaying your hips side to side. If you have blocks, you can use those as well. So shift and sway. So you'll see here, I'm bending one knee generously than the other. And I'm letting those hips kind of do a figure 8, an infinity symbol, side to side and around and around. Come to neutral. Transfer hands up onto your lap, around your back, pull that tummy in as you come all the way up to standing. Good morning. It's interlace fingers, flip your palms out, bring your arms up and overhead. I'm going to step back so I'm on camera here. Palms turned up towards the ceiling. Shoulders down away from your ears. Tummy, front ribs, belly pulled in, knees unlocked. And breathe. Thumbs up, pinky fingers back. Heads on level and straight. Bending your elbows, hands come behind your head. Now front ribs and belly pull in. Just as we did before, this whole idea of the side, ribs, armpits wrapping around towards the front of your body. Even here. And release. All right, let's do it again. Big inhale, both arms go up and overhead. Interlace your fingers, turn your palms towards the sky. Breathe. Wrap the outer rim of your armpits and ribs around towards the front of your body. Knees unlocked. Take that right leg, cross it behind. Going to continue pressing up through the heel of the right hand and bring that left hand down to your hip. So pressing up through the heel of the right hand, pinky finger is behind you, thumb is forward, pressing up and over into a side stretch. Skid the palm of your hand across the ceiling. Push the ceiling across the room. You're going to push the ceiling from right to left, hard. And reset. Let's do the other side. So interlace your fingers, arms up overhead, palms towards the sky. The left leg is going to cross behind. Now, whatever your left arm is doing right now, it's going to continue doing that. So imagine you still had your fingers interlaced, still pushing your thumbs up, pulling your pinky fingers back, but just drop that right hand to your hip. Now, left palm is flat on the ceiling. Now push that ceiling from left to right across the room. Right hand on the hip to help stabilize that lower back. Push that left hand across the ceiling. And reset. Once more on each side. Right leg's going behind. Arms go up and overhead. Interlace your fingers, palms up, thumbs up, pinky fingers back. Now, in profile view, I want you to see this. I am not letting my ribs and belly stick out. I'm keeping everything wrapping around to the front as much as possible, even as I'm in the side stretch. This is your right hand up. This is your left hand on your hip. And you're pushing those ceiling tiles from right to left in that side stretch. Keep your front ribs and belly pulled in. And reset. Left leg behind. Arms go up and overhead. Interlace your fingers. Flip your palms up towards the ceiling. Left hand is going to continue what it's doing right now. Right hand comes to your hip as you come over into that side stretch. Front ribs and belly pulled in. This is not a back bend. It's a side stretch. And come on up. Forward fold. Once again, hands on your lap, elbows on your lap, or hands on blocks. And swish and sway side to side. Feet as wide apart as the mat. Bending one knee, then the other. Swishing and swaying side to side. In this forward fold, find your pillow. Get it ready for your knees. And you might want to orient towards the screen. I think I'm going to orient towards the screen too, so I'll mirror image you. Padding for your knees. I'm going to put that right knee down and that left foot forward. I'm going to get on camera. Right knee down, left foot forward. Nice long lunge. Driving your hips forward. Now do make sure this front foot toe is inching forward so the toe sticks out past your knee. Driving your hips forward. Imagine you were a Hindu god or goddess. You had an extra set of hands grabbing hold of that mat, pulling back on the mat. Hands are on blocks. So it's that pelvic thrust action you've got going on here. And then back it up. You're going to rock back on the heel. The distance between the front foot and back foot doesn't change. Bring your hands on blocks back underneath your shoulders. Notice I've rocked back on the heel. I'm going to waggle that foot side to side. Not only the foot, but those hips as well. Waggle, waggle, waggle. As you wiggle and waggle, you'll notice that this front foot can turn in or it can turn out. Now take that front foot, let it turn out, and resume the lunge. Now at this point, it's okay if you go off the reservation. If that foot travels off the side of the mat, that's fine. Hands are going to go to the inside arch side of that front foot. Same idea. Driving your hips forward as if you were able to reach down and pull the mat back. Keeping your chest up, shoulders down. Driving your chest forward. So it's a deeper hip stretch. And back it up. Your challenge, if you choose to accept it, is to switch sides without using your hands. Little mobility challenge there. So now you've got that left knee down, right foot forward, measuring off a basic lunge. Inch that foot forward so the toe sticks out past the knee. Don't be shy about using the blocks. The blocks are there to keep your shoulders level so that your spine can hang straight down more or less. And then activate as if you were grabbing a hold of the mat, pulling the mat back, driving your hips forward. Big, strong hip stretch. Rocking back on the front heel. The distance between front foot and back foot doesn't change. And a waggle. Turn in, turn out. And taking that front foot, turning it out, resuming the lunge. Hands come to the inside arch side of that front foot. Front foot might wiggle wide off the side of the mat. That's fine. You want the toe and the knee pointing in the same direction. So if your knee's pointing to the side of the room, you also want your toes going that way. Same thing, driving your hips forward as if you're pulling back on that yoga mat. And breathe. And back it up. All right. Come to a kneeling position. If you can, hands free, come to kneeling. I'm going to turn sideways so once again you can see what my feet are doing. I recommend you stay oriented towards the screen so you don't hurt your neck. Toes are curled under. Pinky toes, little piggies, are tucked under as well. And you've got those blocks there to help you with balance. So you're sitting back over your heels. And you're breathing because it is one heck of a toe stretch. Now notice my feet. I'm going to challenge you to push your heels wide and then bring them in narrow. So you're wiggling here. Oh, and those toes are really feeling it. And if it's really too much for those toes, don't be shy about shifting forward. So wiggling those heels in and out, in and out, in and out. It is much more intense if you're sitting on those feet. A little less intense if you are coming forward. So you can modify this wiggling here. And now coming forward, pointing the toes backwards. What a relief that is. Sitting back over your heels for just a moment. All right. Once again, that padding might want to go underneath your knees. You're going to take your right foot forward. Coming into a lunge. Back toes curled under. And if they are curled under, you're pushing back through the heel hard. If the toes are flat, you're pushing down into the top of the foot. Whichever works for you. Driving your hips forward, coming into a nice low lunge. Do make sure that toe is sticking out past the knee. Hands are going to come up onto your lap as you back up. Stabilize yourself, work that back foot. Little pelvic thrust, activating your hips. If this is your right leg, you're going to put your right hand in your lap or your right elbow in your lap. Your left arm is going to come up. Inhale. And as you exhale, do that pelvic thrust, activate your abs and come into this lunge, left arm in the air. This is your right leg out in front. Right hand can be on a block or elbow on your lap as you turn this into a side stretch. And breathe. If this is your right leg out in front, this is your left leg behind. You're working that left leg, pushing that left foot, pushing through the left heel or pushing the top of the left foot down, whatever is working with that left foot, just to make it that much more intense. And then come on out. Let's switch sides. Again, I dare you, I challenge you to do it without using your hands. Shuffle the other leg in front. Left leg in front. Right foot down. Measure out that basic lunge. Hands transfer up as you back up. Work that back foot, whichever position you've chosen. Activate those abs. If this is your left leg out in front, this is your right arm coming up into the air. As you resume the lunge, tummy is strong. Turn it over into a side stretch. Work that bottom foot, back foot. And come on out of that one. All right, we're going to pivot. Keep those blocks. Toes curl under, hips lift up. Find yourself in a wide-legged forward fold. You make sure both feet are on the same surface. As you melt into a nice wide-legged forward fold, toes in, heels out, Prasarita Padottanasana. Hands touch something. Maybe your hands are on blocks. Maybe your hands come to the floor. Maybe you can put your elbows down on blocks. Maybe you can put your elbows on the floor. Find yourself in a nice wide-legged forward fold. Heel toe wiggle your feet closer together. Maybe putting your heels on the edges of your mat. So heels mat width apart, toes turn out to the sides. Fingertips can be on blocks, fingertips can be on floor. You can even grab a hold of that mat, pushing the mat forward. As long as you have your heels on the mat, it's not going to go anywhere. Pushing the mat forward as you drop down into your squat. So I've got the mat. I am pushing the mat forward as I'm dropping my hips back. Breathing. If your knees are borderline not tolerating this, you can take some of the load off by putting those blocks underneath your sit bones. Breathe. So working this pose, hips back. Again, playing around with that variation of holding onto the yoga mat, pushing the yoga mat forward. I'm trying to rip my yoga mat, pushing it forward, backing my hips up, doing lovely things for the lower back. And then ease on up. I'm going to continue some hip mobility stuff. I'm going to remove my blocks here for a moment. I want you to see what I am doing with this foot. I'm letting the heel come up. Maybe I'll show you this back foot. I'm letting the heel come up as I shift over onto it. So I've got a Barbie foot back here, heel up by the sit bone, just the ball of the foot, Barbie foot down on the ground. And I've got these blocks here to help control what's happening. My arms aren't quite long enough to reach the ground. Now my other leg is free for me to pivot. And that's what I'm just going to do. I'm going to pivot. Hands can be in front or in back, whatever you can do for balance sake. Some of you have long enough arms you can reach the ground. Play around with pivot. I know it's funky. And then shift over to the other foot. Heel up. See if I can get to this on camera here. Heel up. There it is. I'm on the ball of the foot. And then the other leg. In and out. I'll find the angle to show everything all at once. Pivot. And out. Oh, hello, hips. Interesting stuff. And then resume that squat. And it feels different. Same thing. You can use the blocks to help take some of the load off. If you want to play around with stretching that yoga mat, do make sure your heels are on the mat. You can grab a hold of it and stretch it forward. Just that little bit of movement really changed that squat, for me at least, maybe for you too. I got a little bit more movement to change that squat. And it's going to be down on our tummies. All right. So once again, come down onto your belly. Oh, this is prep work, believe it or not. Come down onto your tummy. That feels interesting, huh? Toes curled under, shimmy your legs narrow, close together. And then hike, I'm going to take my right leg out to the side. And my foot flex flat right there. That's it. Left leg, my toes are curled under and pushing back through that left heel, maybe lifting that left knee up off the mat. Powering that left leg. Now, just to mess with your mind, you're going to keep that left leg working, pushing back through that left heel, keeping the left knee up off the floor. Find this right leg, and you're going to lift them over. I am pivoting. I am rotating the thigh bone in the hip joint. The degree of bend in the knee doesn't change. My thigh bone is rotating in the hip socket. Hopefully that makes sense. So I'm just rotating a few times here. Hip rotators. And as you do this, keep working the straight leg. And then finally, hold, hold, hold. Maximum rotation. Rotate, rotate, rotate. Maximum rotation. Inner thigh sticking out back behind you. Inner thigh rolling up towards the ceiling. Maximum rotation. And let that go. So since we're on this side, might as well throw in a little shoulder stretch while we're at it. Make your arms like field goal touchdown arms. Elbows in line with the shoulders, palms flat towards the ground. If this is your right leg, this is your left hand. Going to take this right leg and kick it across and roll over onto that left shoulder. And it might feel good to kick and curl, to swing that leg around a little bit. Play around with it a touch. And then roll back over onto your tummy. We're going to do the other side. So right leg straight, left leg hikes out to the side. Keep powering that right leg straight, toes are curled under, pushing back through the heel, knee lifted up off the ground, and then you're going to pivot the left leg. So the angle of the knee doesn't change. I am twisting the thigh bone. And then finally, you're going to hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it. Try to go for maximum twist. Twist, 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 twist. Keep working that straight leg. Twist, 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 twist. And let it go. Once again, field goal touchdown arms. If this is your left leg, you're going to leave that right arm down here in that field goal position, and then take that left leg across. Feeling the stretch across the front of that right shoulder. And it might feel good to do a little kick and curl, to fidget around a bit. And reset. Like I said, all of that was prepped. Shoulders shrug onto your back, elbows come in narrow, close to the body, hands underneath shoulders. Lift your chest up, lift your belly up, back it all up into that child's pose. Big toes together, hips back on your heels, child's pose. As we've been doing all along, you have that option to grab a hold of the yoga mat and stretch the yoga mat. To back your hips up to your heels even more. And turn this into a downward facing dog. Hips up. And breathe. Rise to your tippy toes, shift your body weight forward, pull in your front ribs, pull in your belly like you're making your way to that plank pose. But then at the very last second, step forward with whatever foot you got there so that you can pivot into a wide-legged forward fold. You have both feet on the same surface, toes in, heels out, wide-legged forward fold. And get ready to orient yourself so that you can see the screen. Heel toe wiggle your feet narrow, closer to each other. Heels on the edges of the yoga mat if you've got one. If we're going to cop that squat again. One more time, come into this squat. I am pushing that mat forward. Hips heavy back over the heels. And this just happens to work that I can be pushing the mat forward and at the same time pushing my elbows wide. As I push my elbows wide, my toes and knees turn out even wider to the sides. Backing those hips up. Breathing. Yes. Working this squat. And then come on up into a forward fold. Toes, heel toe wiggle narrow, closer to each other. Find yourself in a forward fold. Fingertips touching something. So if your hands don't touch the ground, your hands touch blocks. Hands touch blocks or hands touch the floor. forward fold. Uttanasana. Knees are soft, unlocked. Make a lap. That means bend your knees. Slide your elbows up onto your lap. Inhale, lift your head up. Have a look forward. And as you exhale, round your back. Arch. Inhale, head up, tail up. And exhale, arch. Again, I do recommend this orienting towards the screen so you don't have to turn your head sideways to see what's happening. You don't have to hurt your neck. Arch and round. Like you're standing cat and cow with elbows on your lap. And then with hands on your lap, pull that tummy in, pulling your front ribs, crawl all the way up to standing. All right, facing the screen, feet go nice and wide. Big inhale, arms come all the way up. And exhale. Toes turn out, ballerina style. Big inhale, arms come up. And as you exhale, come on down into your goddess pose. Knees wide. You pick up your big toes. Hips back. Shoulders down. Head on straight. And inhale up. And exhale, pull down. Inhale up. And exhale, pull down. One more time. Big inhale all the way up. And exhale all the way down. Good. Knees are out. Big toes lift up if you can. And come on up. Turn all toes to the right. Inhale, arms up. And as you exhale, bend just that right knee. Warrior two. Extending those arms. Gazing out over that right hand. Be able to pick up the big toe on that right foot. And inhale up. Pivot your feet to go to the other side. And as you exhale, come on down. Extending your arms. Warrior two on the other side. Be able to wiggle your big toes. Inhale up. Pivot. And exhale. Shoulders down, chest lifted. Warrior two. Inhale up. Pivot. Exhale. Warrior two. Inhale up. All toes turn in. Knees unlocked. Hinging forward into that forward fold. Heel toe wiggling your feet closer to each other. Heels on the edges of your mat. Have those blocks ready to go if you need them. Coming into that squat again. Having those blocks ready to go for that butt cheek configuration, one block for each butt cheek. You're going to go underneath those sit bones as you come into your Baddha Konasana, butterfly pose. And you're going to wiggle and waggle, waddle forward so that your sit bones are on the edges of those blocks. Shoulders shrug up, back and down. Bottom of your feet are together. Now jam the pinky toe sides of your feet into each other hard. So shove those feet into each other. You can take your peace fingers around your big toes. Shoulders down, chest lifted. Pull your chest forward. Before you were grabbing hold of the yoga mat, well, now you're grabbing hold of those big toes and you're pulling your chest forward. And breathe. All the while, as you're pulling back on those big toes, pulling your chest forward, you're still jamming the pinky toe sides of your feet into each other extra hard. And release. Staying upright. Take that right leg out to the side. Left heel comes in close to the body. Now I'm going to turn the top of the foot down. And I'm going to push the heel away. I'm going to spin the meat around the bone. Makes the knee a little bit more comfortable. So I'm turning out, scuffing up that pedicure. Heel is in close to the groin. It may or may not touch, but it's in close. Now this right leg, I want to orient it so the toes and the knee are pointing up towards the ceiling. Sometimes your foot lets turn out, sometimes it likes to turn in. Find the distance out to the side where you can have the knee and the toes pointing up towards the ceiling. Sit bones are wide, foot flexes flat, shoulders up, back, and down. If this is your right leg, this is your left arm coming up. Reach up and come on over into a big side stretch. You can support your head with the top or the bottom hand, whatever you need to do to support your head if you have a heavy neck. Otherwise, do let your head fall. Let that bottom shoulder shrug away from the bottom ear. So your head is hanging, bottom shoulder is shrugging away from the bottom ear. Maybe that bottom elbow can make its way to the inside of that right thigh. Elbow to the inside of the thigh. Head hanging. Now let's take this top hand and wipe a table out in front of you, palm is flat. Smack that table, drag the table towards you, shrug the top shoulder onto your back, all the while your head is hanging. Wipe the table off the side of your hip, reaching down diagonal through your fingertips. You're going to feel a lovely neck stretch here. Right elbow on right inner thigh, helping to turn your chest open towards the ceiling, reaching down diagonal through your left hand. Head is hanging. And keep reaching diagonal down towards the ground until you come all the way on up. That's it. And let's switch sides. So customize the angle here, taking the leg open out to the side, but not so far that the foot falls in and not so far that the foot turns out. You want the knee and the toe pointing up towards the ceiling. You want to be able to flex the foot flat. Now this other one, you're going to spin the meat around the bones, scuff up your pedicure, push the heel out, turn the meat out, get that knee nice and comfortable. Sitting on blocks also helps keep that knee comfortable. Pulling the flesh away from the bones lets you sit up nice and tall. All right, if this is your left leg, this is your right arm coming up and over, side stretch. Foot is flexed flat. The straight leg is short, pulled into your pelvis. So settling in here, making yourself comfortable, using your head or holding your head in your hand, whatever you need to do for your neck. Bottom shoulder shrugs away from your bottom ear, head hangs heavy. And then that top hand wipes the table, smacks the table, shrugs that top shoulder onto your back, drags that table towards you, and then wipe it off the side of your hip. Reaching down diagonal through your right fingertips. That bottom elbow, that would be your left elbow, is coming to the inside of that left thigh. Reaching down diagonal to come all the way on up. Oh, ha, ha, ha. Let's repeat. Going back to that first side. Now, if you have a belt nearby, you have an option here. Make that belt over the foot. And if you have a long belt, just have those two ends of the belt up here near your hip somewhere. All right. Put flex flat again, adjusting that angle, customize it for your own body. Turn the meat, adjust the foot. You've been there before. Shoulders up, back, and down. If this is your right leg, this is your left arm coming up into the air and over into a side stretch. Bottom elbow on the inner thigh. Now, this is where you can find the belt. You're going to pull back on the belt. And as you pull back on the belt, work that elbow on the inside of your thigh a little bit more. As you pull back on the belt, you kind of hike that shoulder underneath. Now take this top hand, wipe a table, smack the table, shrug the top shoulder onto your back. Continue to wipe the table off the side of your hip. Reaching down diagonal through that left fingertip. And keep working this right shoulder, right elbow, deeper to the inner thigh. Kind of fun. Now, the more you pull back on the belt, the shorter you make that straight leg. The closer you get down the leg. You might be inspired to take that left hand up and over and around to the toes. And come on up. Oh, let's switch sides. So set it all up. Sit bones wide, you're on blocks. Meat twisted around the bone, heel in close. Customize the angle here with your leg so that you can have the toe and the knee pointing up. Belt goes around the bottom of the foot. Drape that belt up into your lap. You can find it, it's along your thigh. If this is your left leg, this is your right arm coming up and over into a side stretch. Now this left shoulder comes in like you're warding off being tickled, right? Tuck that elbow to the inside of the thigh. And along the way, you can pick up your belt. Tuck the elbow to the inside of the thigh. Now pull back on the belt and get a little bit more twist to happen. Foot is flexed flat. Nice side stretch happening here. Take this top hand, wipe that table, shrug the top shoulder onto your back. Wipe it off the side of your hip. Twist. Side stretch. Do everything. Breathe. Head is hanging. Bottom shoulder away from the bottom ear. And when you feel so inspired, you can finish the pose by reaching up and over to find your toes. And come all the way up. Set that belt aside. Legs go wide. Our grand finale here. Feet nice and wide, toes up. Again, finding that angle where the toes are neither falling in or falling out, whatever angle that is for you. For me, it's about 90 degrees. Still sitting on those blocks, shoulders up, back, and down. My torso will act like a wedge to pry my thighs apart. I don't want them to go any wider than they are now. So I have to engage my inner thighs a little bit, like I'm dragging my heels in towards one another, even as I hinge forward. Don't let your feet go any wider than they were when you were sitting upright. Keep squeezing them in as you hinge forward. Feet flex flat. Now please stick your butt out behind you. Stick your butt out behind you. Even activate like you're shortening the legs, pulling your legs back into socket. You have that mat out in front of you. You can grab hold of the mat, push the mat forward to back your hips up. Push the mat forward to back your hips up. And that's kind of magic. Get back on here on camera, all the way on camera. You want those sit bones down. you're grabbing hold of the yoga mat to push your sit bones back. Stick your butt out behind you. And when you've had enough of that, you get to come on out. Lift and separate. If you know you're pretty flexible and you can come off the blocks, you might consider coming off the blocks. And just notice how much of you is touching the ground. Your suction cup sealed to the ground here. Lots of good contact happening. If you're not quite flexible enough to sit down on the floor, then continue sitting on the blocks by all means. Shoulders up, back, and down. Ideally, you're able to sit up nice and tall. You can feel your sit bones making contact with the blocks or with the floor, and you're able to sit up tall without straining your back. Inhale, arms come up and overhead. And as you exhale, pick a side, any side, go for a twist. Can you relax your thighs? Can you keep your sit bones equally weighted? Can you relax your butt so your sit bones stay down? And inhale to center. And exhale, twist the other way. Keep your feet secure to the ground, sit bones down. Chest, shoulders, twisting. And again, inhale to center. And exhale, twist. One more time. Inhale to center. And exhale, twist. Keep breathing. And release. Feel like I could sit here for hours and be comfortable. Anyway, we're going to move along and finish up today's class with a little Shavasana. So find your favorite Shavasana pose. You might consider having a pillow for underneath your head. Doing any variation on Shavasana you desire. As always, you can modify and go into half Shavasana or full flat out, whatever works best for you. Let's take a few moments to breathe